Good morning, everyone. As we're gearing up to start this meeting, hi, this is Scott. I'm one of the CAMS project managers. If you can just make sure you're joining the Zoom because we do have another PowerPoint to share. So just want to make sure everyone gets their Zoom activated while we're waiting everyone to join, and plan to start here right at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Scott Crane. I'm one of the CAMS project managers. So I want to welcome everyone. Just to kick off, I know that CAMS was down before 9 o'clock for about 10 minutes. It is back up, so I'm not sure if all of you were aware, but just wanted to make sure there was actually, not to get technical, but there was an ADFS issue that we're working with the Indiana Office of Technology with. So we're looking into why that was down. It was basically across the state. So we'll keep everyone informed. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to Miss Amy Rapp.
Good morning, everybody. This is Amy. Just wanted to welcome all of you on behalf of the Division of Aging and the CAMS team to this morning's phone call. So thank you for taking the time to join us. Also, just want to say thank you for your continued patience in working with us. Congratulations, as we are on day 23 of CAMS. And, you know, I'm very, very proud of our team, of our partnerships that we have with you and with the CAMS team here as issues elevate to us. We have been working diligently, well, actually, Imagine has been working diligently on really resolving all the issues. So wanted to thank all of the Imagine team for that, and for all of you just for keeping us informed and elevating as you see fit. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this on over to Laura, who will get us started on today's agenda.
Perfect. So good morning, everybody. My name is Laura Hanson. I've had the opportunity to speak with some of you on calls, but we are going to walk through a PowerPoint this morning, and then there is a demo portion of what we're presenting as well. So please do join the Zoom meeting. I will say today we did go through all of the questions that we received last time, so we tried to tease out some common questions that we were receiving via the Zoom chat. So we've placed those questions in this PowerPoint, so we're going to walk through some of those things, and along the way of answering some of those Zoom questions, we should also be able to share some of the things that we've been able to develop and resolve in recent days from a CAMS perspective as well. I will say, if we're not mentioning something that is a high priority similar to last Thursday, please do put it in the Zoom chat. We do want to hear if there are things that you feel like are critical and our team needs to be focused on. So without further ado, the first question that we had was really around NOAs, and there were a couple of issues here that we just wanted to walk through. Some are resolved, and then some our team is currently working on. So there was a known issue where some of the attachments that were being sent on NOAs were blank. We did on Thursday of last week get that issue resolved. So essentially, anything that you were trying to, when you were getting to the point in CAMS where you were actually sending out that NOA, or the system was sending out that NOA, those blank attachments should no longer have been occurring. If you are seeing that issue still, please do let us know. But based on the testing that we've performed, we do believe that that is currently resolved. The second part of that is that we did go through, and any NOAs that were generated and were blank and were sent out, we did go ahead and regenerate those so that they do now have content, and then we sent them out. And so we did that yesterday, and our thought there was that it would be a time saver for care managers so that they didn't have to go through and try to parse through emails and figure out what is sent successfully and what didn't send successfully. So if you did have an NOA that was sent out blank, you should now, it should now have been sent out correctly. So if there are questions around any of the NOAs being sent blank, please do let us know in the chat. The next piece that we did want to talk through is that we are aware of an issue where service units are showing as 0, and we are currently, oops, let me go back. We are currently working on a fix for this item. So that is NOA. So we'll go to our next slide here, which is the question that we had received, or question we received was, what is the process for changing services mid-month? And so some of the folks on the phone here, we did have an opportunity to work with directly. So previously, the specific rules for mid-month changing of services, it was preventing some folks from moving service plans forward. We did have some working sessions with care managers that were seeing this. So essentially, we would jump on a Zoom, we would disable those rules, the care manager would move the plan forward, and then we would re-enable the rules again. Since that point, we now have worked with the Division of Aging to determine what rules could potentially be disabled. And so we have disabled those rules, meaning that if you are in the process of changing services mid-month, that should now function. So you shouldn't need any additional help from the CAMS team or a Zoom session to do that. You should be able to just use the functionality in the system to change services mid-month. If there are questions around that, or you are seeing issues, please do let us know in the Zoom chat, or if you have a ticket that's tied to it, please let us know that as well. The next question we had, they're saying CAMS is off again. Okay. It looks like we're getting some Zoom chat around CAMS being offline again, so we'll take a look into that while we're running through this slide deck, and we'll give you an update on this call. So just to let everybody know, we did see that in the chat, and we are currently looking at it. So the next question that we had is there written documentation on case ownership transfer? So there is written documentation regarding this. I know in our session on Thursday, we had walked through how to access knowledge base articles. There is a good knowledge base article regarding this, and it's called Reassigning a Case. If you have questions on how to access that, please do let us know. But essentially, there's a question around what alerts go out when a case is transferred. So specifically, when a case is transferred, an email is sent to the new care manager, letting them know that they are the new owner. If you want to see the specific details around that particular transfer, you can log into CAMS to see it. And then there is a change request currently logged, meaning a change request for our CAMS team to complete development against, to add additional detail to those alerts that are being sent from CAMS. So I will say, I think this brings up a good point. If you do have feedback about any of the emails that are sent out from CAMS, how any of the forms are organized, please do let us know. We do review those periodically and look at enhancements or changes we can make in the CAMS system. So we are looking for that feedback, and we will work with the Division of Aging to prioritize that feedback. The next slide is around the NRRAI. So the question that we received was, how does an NRRAI interact with a case? So just some quick notes here. You must be the case owner in order to create the NRRAI. We have seen some help desk tickets come in regarding this, and that's usually the first thing that our help desk folks will ask first, or will look into the system and confirm first, is that you're the case owner. You can see that you're the case owner by looking at the record administration area at the bottom of the case record in CAMS. If the case is transferred to another party, the new case owner can create the new NRRAI. And just of note, the new case owner will also be able to see the old NRRAI assessments. So hopefully that information is helpful. If there's any clarifying questions regarding that, please do let us know in the chat. The next item that we wanted to review is around RFIs. So for RFIs, do I need to resubmit the service plan based on the issues being seen? So we ask that you please do not resubmit at this time. We are working through a solution currently regarding the RFIs. We expect to have a new process soon. And then once we do have that process in place, we will work with anybody who is impacted by this issue, by the auto denied plans, and ensure that there's either a workaround in place or a specific set of instructions that you can follow to make sure that you can move those things forward. And then the next item that we wanted to walk through was RFAs. So the specific questions that we were receiving were around issues regarding RFAs. So a couple of things that we did want to give updates on. The first being that there were several help desk tickets around this. So when you are completing an RFA, ramp is now an option that can be selected. That was an issue that was fixed late in the day on Friday. The second thing that we did want to bring up that we also fixed late in the day on Friday is that you should no longer be receiving winning bid warnings for, and I won't attempt to say all those acronyms, services. So read through those. If you were seeing that error previously, you should no longer be seeing that issue. If you are seeing that, please do let us know. Also, currently providers will not receive a final RFA notice when sign-off is completed. I know that this was a question that had come through the help desk. Of note, once a care manager receives sign-off on the work, we ask that the care manager reach out to the provider and communicate that it has been approved. So if there's any questions around that, please do let us know. But that's the process that we're asking that care managers leverage at this time. Does the inspection date matter to DXC to pay claims? This was a question that we had received through the help desk as well. Some folks had noticed that the inspection date field was locked. This is by design, so the inspection date does not dictate whether or not claims are paid, and as such, this field is locked. So if there's any other questions around RFAs or these notes specifically, please do let us know in the chat. So now we'd like to move over to doing some demonstrations in CAMS. We did look through the chat from last time, and then also some of the questions that we received in the help desk to identify some areas and demonstrate for you. So if you do have follow-on questions as we're walking through these demonstrations, please do include those in the chat as well. All right, so we are logged into the training environment right now. We're going to do our demonstrations in there. I know you all are probably very familiar with the training environment after completing training for CAMS. We have in recent weeks kind of changed the header for the training environment, so it should be pretty obvious that you are in training. Just wanted to make a note of that. So the first question that we received was really around the Tier 1 and Tier 2 process, and how does that function? What are the statuses? You know, how do I see it, you know, where my service plan is amongst all those statuses? So we did want to quickly kind of walk through what that process looks like, and then walk through how I can actually find that information in CAMS. Give me 1 second. It looks like my account just needs some credentials. Okay, I think crisis averted, and we're back into our demo. So the process for Tier 1, Tier 2 approvals, first the care manager submits their service plan. So they fill out all the information, it's submitted. Then the CM supervisor reviews it. Assuming that they approve it, they would click on that Tier 1 approval button. So actually, let me go into a service plan, and we'll just kind of show you. So that would be the Tier 1 approval button up here. We did receive some questions at one point. Folks were clicking on that and then were concerned that, hey, that button still appears even though I've clicked on it. Has it actually gone to the CMC for review or approval? It has. So those buttons won't disappear just because you click on them. I'll show you here in a second of how to kind of easily see where your service plan is, and then how to put some advanced finds together so that if there's a particular way that you want to view this data or work with this data, or make sure you have all your ducks in a row in terms of tracking your service plans, you can. So kind of back to our process. So assuming that the CM supervisor approves it, they click on the Tier 1 approval button. It then goes to the CMC. The CMC then reviews it. Assuming that they approve of it, they click on the Tier 2 approval button. At this point, the status of the plan changes to approved - pending confirmation. And then at that point, the care manager is going to confirm that the plan confirms the plan, and then they're going to go ahead and make it active. So if you are ever wanting to see has a Tier 1 approval been performed or a Tier 2 approval, and I'm on the actual service plan, there is an area lower on the service plan, and I'll just scroll down here, right down here, that has all of your approval details. So if you're ever curious if those actions have actually occurred, you can look down here. So I can actually see whether or not a Tier 1 approval has occurred, or really when, who it was approved by. So if I ever have questions about that on a particular service plan, I can look at that on the actual service plan record. We just want to make a note of that. We also wanted to make a note that it's important that Tier 2 approvals only apply to waiver funded service plans. I know we had received some questions in the help desk regarding this. So again, Tier 2 is only for waiver funded. The next thing that we did want to draw your attention to is that there are several dashboards in CAMS that you can use to manage this information. The nice thing about the platform that CAMS was built on, which is CRM, is that you can actually create your own dashboards. So today we're going to walk through how do you get to your dashboard, and then if you like a dashboard but you want to tweak it, or if you want to create your own dashboard altogether, how do you do that? I know there were some comments last time about advanced find and, hey, this is a little confusing. We absolutely understand that sentiment. It can be hard when you're first kind of learning all the data in a system to figure out what advanced find will look like. So another thing that we plan to show you today is how to start out with an existing view or advanced find in the system. So probably the easiest way for you to build your own queries in the system, your own dashboards in the system that really makes sense, is to start with something that's already in the system and then just build on top of it. So we'll kind of show you how to do that. and hopefully that's helpful as you're walking through. So the first thing that we wanted to show you is that for the DA Field Care Management Supervisor, there is a dashboard, and over here you can see all the service plans that have been submitted. There's some other views that you can look at on here as well if you're looking for a particular type of service plan. If you're ever curious as to what things are actually filtered on, so if I'm seeing these records and I'm not really even sure why they're showing up, you can go to the actual area where you work with the view. And if I go to actually scratch that. So let's go to the advanced find. So let's say I have this view. So this is my DA submitted service plans. Ignore the LH, that's my name. So DA submitted service plans. If I go up to advanced find, and then I find that view. So I'm looking for service plans. So I'm going to scroll down. There we go. And then I can actually start out with that view. So again, this was my DA submitted service plans view. So I can use a saved view that's already in the system and click on that. And then that will actually show me how this view here is being filtered. And if I want to add additional criteria, if I want to add other columns, I can do that and then save it out as my own view. So let's work within this view for a moment. So if I'm curious what it's actually pulling, it's pulling plan status is submitted, the plan type does not equal terminated, and then tier 1 approval does not contain data. So really what that means is that the tier 1 approval, and remember we looked at that on the service plan, that field is not populated with a date, which means that it has not yet happened. So that tier 1 approval has not yet happened. So essentially, this view on the dashboard is trying to show you anything that's been submitted by the care manager but needs the supervisor to approve. So let's say that you really just want to see the service plans that that need approval by the CMC. So the ones that you've actually, as a supervisor, if you've actually approved those. So essentially what you would do is you would change the tier 1 approval to tier 2 approval. Actually, tier 1 approval, sorry, does contain data. And then I would go to tier 2 approval. Does not contain data. And so let's just take a moment to kind of walk through this query because I know it's a little bit different way of thinking. So we now have a tier 1 approval has a date that it was approved, and then the tier 2 approval does not have a date that it was approved. And then if I click on my results, then I can see what that actually brings up in the system. I can also at that time, so let's say I like this view, but I really want to just be seeing it for a particular individual, okay? I go back to my advanced find. I find a way to filter by individual. So I go down here to individual, and then equals. And then this basically means this is a lookup, which is good. I can look up that individual in CAMS. I think what's his name, Brian? Let's try that. So I'm going to select an individual, add it, go back to my results, and now I can see service plans that are in the CMC's hands for Brian Douglas. The thing to note when you're kind of building out your query is that as you're building this out, I have not saved anything yet. So just be sure that when you're building out your queries, you're saving along as you go. The other thing to note is that I haven't done anything from a columns perspective. So when I go to the results here, you'll see that there's service plan ID, submission date, individual, some other information. If I wanted to add an additional column, I can go to edit columns. And then I can add whatever columns that I would like to see. I just do that by adding columns. And there's actually lots of different options. So let's say I wanted something that is actually on the individual, a field that's on the individual. I can actually pull that through. So let's say I wanted the RID, because that's helpful for me as a care manager. I find that field, I click the check mark, say OK, and now when I go to results, I can see the RID as well. So if I really like this view, I can go ahead and save it. So I'm going to save as. And again, just a reminder, so we've actually started this view from an existing view in the system. So I would recommend to you, if you're trying to build out a query in CAMS, try to start with an existing query that's very close to the one that you'd like to see. So I'm going to go ahead and change this, and we'll change it to tier 2 approval needed. And I'll save that. And now if I go to my saved views, I'll see that listed here. So that's one of the views that I have created in the system. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's say that I really like this view, and I think we walked through this last time, but just quickly, if I wanted to share this with another person at my AAA, somebody that I've been talking to, I can actually share it. So if I just click the little checkbox and then go to shared views and then go to share, I can add another user in the system that I can share this with. And this is probably a little bit of a review, but just so folks are aware, you can do that. It is very helpful, especially if you're wanting to tag team a query. Sometimes getting another set of eyes on a query that you're trying to create is helpful. So keep that in mind as well. I would definitely try to collaborate and work with other folks when you're trying to build things out. Because sometimes it's better to have that second set of eyes. So once I find the person, I can dictate whether or not they only have read privileges, if I'm going to allow them to edit it, if they can share it with other folks, and then I click save or share, and then that would share it with the other individual. So the other thing we wanted to walk through in regards to kind of that tier 1, tier 2 submission process, and we'll go back, is how to actually see if a plan is in that approved pending confirmation status. So the best way to do that, so I'm going to start out with an existing query in CAMS. I'm going to go ahead and remove these rows because I no longer need to filter by those. And I'm just doing that by clicking the little caret and I'm deleting it. I'm just deleting those filter criteria. So I'm going to click select, I'm going to scroll down to status, and then I'm going to find that status that we had just talked about. Is it not that field, Darla? Plan status, there we go. Yeah. So the nice thing about queries is if you make a mistake, it's very easy to go back and course correct. So we have our plan status equal. I'll click the little ellipsis button, and then I can click on that approved pending confirmation. And the nice thing here is that if you wanted to see multiple statuses, you could also pull those in as well. So if you wanted a view in the system that you saw, you know, approved pending confirmation, maybe something that's also, what's another one, Darla, that folks would want to see? Maybe in the same one.
Activation.
Okay.
Pending activation.
Pending activation, okay. So let's click a couple here. So now I'm pulling in 2 different plan statuses into my view. And I'm going to go back, look at my results. Again, remember, I haven't saved this yet. So if you navigate away from the screen, you're going to lose this at this point unless you go ahead and save it. So I'm going to look at my results. There aren't, unfortunately, any plans in that status, and that's okay. But if I did want to see, so let's say I did get results when I was looking at the queries, and I wanted to differentiate between the ones that were in approved pending confirmation versus approved pending activation status, I'd want to go ahead and add that column to my view. So again, I'm going to go to Edit Columns. I'm going to click Add Column. I'm going to find my plan status column. Click that, say okay, okay. And then now I've added that to my view. So now when I have all these records populated here, I can differentiate between the ones that are in the 2 statuses that I'm including on this query. Actually, let me take this off. Okay. So if I really like this query, again, I can save it. So there's a save, so be careful of this as well. So there's a save, which is going to save it to that Tier 2 approval needed view that I created, or I can click Save As. And we could say, ooh, we can type plan status is approved pending confirmation. And go ahead and save that. So now I have another view. So if I go back to my saved views, let's see, did I click too fast? There we go. So now I have 3 views there. And if I wanted to share that, I could go ahead and share that with other folks. So we are seeing some comments in the chat around, hey, this looks complicated, this looks hard, and we completely understand. So there's a few options that we have here. So one option is obviously beefing up training materials in some way, shape, or form. The other option is we can actually create, instead of the care manager or the folks at the AAAs or ICMs having to create views themselves, if there are some common views, so some things that you feel like as a care manager or care manager supervisor, somebody at a AAA ICM that you would use consistently, please let us know. Those are things that we can create, and you'll see in the system, and I'll just show you. Let's actually show you, let's go to service plans, because that's really what we've been creating all these views around. So I know Stacy had walked through this last time, but again, it's helpful sometimes to see it again. So we have these system views. Those are views that the CAMS team has created. So if there's some common things that you'd like to see, we can absolutely add those as system views. We probably just need to work with you all on things like how would you want it filtered, or what information would you want to see? What columns is it helpful to see in that view? So this is what we would term columns. It's almost like an Excel spreadsheet. If there's some sort of sorting that you'd like to see applied, for example, you know, I want to see planned start date, most recent at the top, or maybe there's some other way that is that's for you to kind of work through service plans or another type of record in CRM. So if you can give us some of those details, and we see some commonalities, then those are things that we can actually create as system views. What we've been creating today are what we term personal views. So those are under the My Views here. So you can see the couple of views that we've done in this session here, the plan status, approved pending confirmation, and the tier 2 approval needed. Those are views that we've actually created, and we can share with other folks. So if you do have that information, please do include it. The next thing that we'd like to walk through is in the advanced find. So maybe just one last thing. It's very powerful in the fact that there's essentially anything that you work with in CAM, you can actually view through an advanced find, and you can filter it. So one question that we have seen is around emails. So there's some feedback that we received around emails and saying that, hey, and I think we mentioned this a little earlier, hey, it would be helpful if there was some more descriptive verbiage in the emails, which we are looking at currently. It would also be helpful if we could combine some of the emails together so they weren't so individualized in terms of like updating a specific field or updating a specific record, if they were more of like a Reader's Digest version of what was occurring on a case or a service plan or for an individual, et cetera. So we are evaluating those things as well. But if you are ever curious what emails have actually been sent out of the system, you can actually query that through the advanced find. So if I go up here to email, and there's actually, I can use a system view. So for this purpose, I'm just going to use all emails. I can start to add some criteria to narrow down what emails have been sent. It could be regarding a specific service plan, a specific case, a specific individual. So I'm looking at emails right now. I can go and find a particular individual. And like we did earlier where we had found Brian, if I click on the lookup, let's just find Brian again. And again, training doesn't send out any emails, so I don't know if we'll actually see any results. But right now I'm looking at all emails in the system that have been sent out regarding Brian Douglas. So I'll click on results. Oh, there we go. So you'll see that these are in pending send status. Basically that means because we don't have emails hooked up in training, the actual email is being generated, but it's not being sent anywhere. So don't worry that it's being sent, it's just being generated. But now we can see all the emails that have been sent out regarding Brian. And this can be a helpful tool if you're ever trying to parse through what's actually been sent for a particular individual. And you could do the same thing for a service plan, for a case. Really the sky's the limit. If this is a type of view that you would like to see in a system view, and there's some particular criteria that you'd like to see there, please do let us know in the chat. Again, we can make these views system views that you can access. All right. So why have we been going through all of these views? So the really powerful thing about CAMS and CRM in general is that you can create what we call dashboards. And dashboards are essentially just a collection of views which we've been creating in the system. So essentially to create my own dashboard, I can either take an existing dashboard and I can click Save As, and that then takes the dashboard, saves it, and then I can edit it, or I can click a new, I can have a new dashboard. So for the sake of this, let's go ahead and click New. When I do create my own dashboard, I have lots of options about how I want that dashboard to actually look. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do a 2-column regular dashboard. And I'll kind of show you on the side here what you're actually creating. I'll click create. I get to name my dashboard. So we'll just call this Laura's Awesome Dashboard. And then all of these boxes here are essentially where I can apply my view. So if I go ahead and click on, and you get options, you can either have a chart, you can have a list, you won't use iframe, and you won't use web resource. So really you're down to 2 options. You can either do a chart or a list. Folks are probably most familiar working with lists, so we'll go ahead and click on insert list. We're going to find the record type that we're working with. So if you remember, all those views we created previously were tied to service plan. So we're going to go down to service plan. And then we're going to find the views that I created. So remember a few minutes ago, we had created a couple of views. So the first view I'm going to grab is this Tier 2 approval needed. Add that. The other view that I want in here is that other view I created. Again, I'm going to click Insert List. I'm going to go down to Service Plan. And then go down to my plan status approved pending confirmation. I think that's not the one that I added. And then all I would do now is just save it. I'll give that a second. And then I can close. And give the hamsters a second to run on the wheel and save everything in CAMS. Maybe. Let me try to save, close. Well, let's do this. Let's go and see if maybe it saved and it just didn't tell us it did. No, I don't see that. There we go. So it did save, it just wasn't closing that screen. So if I go into dashboards now, so again, we have this little caret here, just like views, I can see all of the system dashboards. So just like views, if there are different dashboards that you'd like to see, please do let us know in the comments. But I can also see my dashboard, and I can see Laura's Awesome Dashboard. So essentially now, this is my dashboard that I created, and it has the 2 views that we worked through just a moment ago. So you really get the opportunity to create a workspace for really that's tailored to you and how you like to work. The other nice thing about this is I can also set this so that this is what I see whenever I log into CAMS. So if I click this little Set as Default button, I now, whenever I go back to the home screen, I'm going to always see my Laura's Awesome dashboard. I can also share this dashboard with other people on my team. So if I'm able to work through and create a dashboard that's really helpful for everybody, if I click on the Share Dashboard, just like you would with a view, I can add team members. Let's find Brian Allison again. I'll share that with him. Let's say I want to be nice and let him edit it if he sees fit, or share it with other people. And share that. And then now I have this dashboard that really multiple folks can access. They can edit, they can share it. I know it takes some work to get to this point, right? We started at kind of our building blocks, which were those views. The other thing that you can do is if you really like some different system views, you can add those to your dashboard as well. And it doesn't have to all be related to the same thing. For example, on this dashboard, I've added in two lists related to service plans, but let's say I also wanted a list of cases or a list of individuals. I can also add those views on here as well. Really the key here is that I just need to have a view that's in CAMS and available, and then I can go ahead and apply those views to my dashboard. So there is a QRG related to dashboards and all the things that you can do with dashboards. We will be sure to include that in the communication that we send out today. And if there are other questions that you have, we do encourage you just put those in the Zoom chat, and those are things that we can look at, either beefing up training materials for or any other combination of options. So again, we appreciate all your feedback there. One other thing that we did want to share with you today, just from a demonstration perspective, we do realize that in moving from a system that's older, there's a lot of opportunity for using some shortcuts on your keyboard. There is the same ability in CRM or CAMS as well. So essentially what you would do, let's go to a recent record. Let's go to my service plan. Some of you may have already discovered that you can do this, but if you're on a field in CAMS and you don't, I know it can be time consuming if you're trying to type something and then use your mouse and you click on the next field and you type something, use your mouse, click on the next field. You can actually use the tab key in your browser to go to the next field. So if I tab, you can see that I'm actually going from field to field in CAMS. Conversely, you can use the Shift Tab key to go back. So Tab key forward, Shift Tab key back. The other thing that you can do, and let me type this so you guys can see it. So if you use Control and then this key or this character, hopefully you can, everybody see that? I don't know what that's called. Does anybody in the room know what that's called? Bracket. Okay, there we go. Bracket. If you use Control and then the bracket, left bracket, and that on your keyboard, at least on my keyboard, it's next to the letter P, so it may be in a different place on your keyboard. But if you click the Control key and that left bracket, did you see how I now am selecting Save at the top? So I'm going to do that one more time. So if I click Control, left bracket, now I have control of the command bar at the top here. So I'm going to say Control left bracket, oops, and then I can actually use my arrow keys to arrow through all the different options. So hopefully that's a time saver for folks that leverage their keyboard quite a bit when they're inputting data. The next thing that we did want to share with you is that you can have the form saved. So there's a few different ways that you can save. There's the save button up here. Some of you have probably noticed this little disc down here. You can actually save with that as well. So if I click that, that will actually tell me that everything's outdated. I can actually save with that as well. Or if I wanted to use my keyboard, if I click the Alt button, and on my keyboard, that's next to my space bar. So Alt and then the S as in save, that will also save your form as well. So just some quick tips if you're more accustomed to using your keyboard when you're entering data. We'll include that in the information that we send out today as well. And then probably one final thing that we did want to share, if you're on a form or a record in CAMS, and let's say, and I don't know why you would necessarily want to do this, but there could be situations where you'd want to do this. If you wanted to print this for some reason, if you go up to the little gear icon up here and you click on Print Preview, you can actually print items in CAMS or forms in CAMS. So again, I'm going to do that really quickly one more time. So I'm going to go up to the gear icon, click Print Preview, and now I get this. It's a little bit easier to read than the actual form within CAMS. So the text is a little more simple. It's laid out a little more compactly. And then I can go ahead and just click the print button. And when I do that, I can either print to an actual printer that I might be connected to, or if I just want to save this as a PDF, you can click Save to as PDF and click Save, and then click that locally to your machine. So we'll include that tip in our communication today as well. So there are other things that you'd like to see from a demonstration perspective. Again, if you want to see some system views that you would like for us to create, if there's some dashboards that would be helpful, please do let us know. So at this point, we're going to jump back over to our PowerPoint. And there's just a few notes that we wanted to, or a few updates that we wanted to give you from a help desk perspective. I know this is a wall of words. So just some friendly reminders when you are submitting a help desk ticket. There's some things that are very, very helpful. If you can be sure to include those with your help desk ticket, it does help us troubleshoot any issues that you may be seeing. So the first thing that we ask is to please identify the user from your organization that is attempting to complete the activity that they're running into an issue regarding, or they have a question about. We ask this because folks in CAMS do have different security roles. So depending on your role in CAMS, the issue that you're asking about could be dependent upon that. So we're really trying to get as much information as possible when we have the help desk ticket, so that we can minimize the number of times that we have to go back and ask follow-on questions. So first and foremost, we do ask that if you can, whenever you're submitting a help desk ticket, please tell us the user that this issue is regarding. The second thing is to please be as specific as possible when you are outlining an issue. You can almost think of the folks on a help desk, and then if it gets escalated to a developer, they really are detectives. So there are times where, you know, we have to kind of put on our detective hat and try to figure out what's going on. Either we can't duplicate the issue, or it's related to something very specific to your account. So it's really helpful if you can kind of think of it from that perspective when you're putting in the ticket. Any detail is helpful, and really the more specific you can be is a huge help to our team. The third item that we wanted to point out is if there's any unique identifiers in the ticket or for the particular issue you're seeing, to please include that. So that would encompass things like the service plan ID or the case ID. If you do have those pieces of information, please do include those. The fourth thing that we did want to ask, and I know that we walked through this on Thursday, but if you do get an error message in CAMS, typically a dialog box will pop open, and then you'll see a little button that says download log file. Please click on that download log file. It'll basically just download a text file. If you can save that and then include that with your help desk ticket, it does help us. It'll just look like gibberish. So it'll just be a lot of words and characters that you probably don't recognize. But our developers can read all that gibberish and try to figure out what the issue is that you're seeing and what the potential fix is. So that's something else that we wanted to mention. The fifth item on the list here is just to please limit a single ticket to a single issue. I know it can be tempting when you're putting in a help desk ticket to kind of list out, hey, I'm having an issue with this report or on this screen as well. But we do ask if you can just limit each help desk ticket to a singular issue that you're seeing in CAMS or a singular question. It does help us to more quickly address that item. Sometimes we spend additional time parsing out pieces that are maybe, hey, this is really just a question about how the system works versus, and this needs to go to the Division of Aging versus this is a thing that we need to send to a developer versus this is a thing that we have a knowledge base article for. And it at times is causing us to resolve tickets when maybe you had put like 5 or 6 issues in there and we've resolved 5, but maybe not the 6. So we do ask if you can limit your tickets to just a singular issue. It is a huge help for our team. We do recognize it takes additional time for you to do that, and we thank you for that, but it is a huge help. The 6th item that we wanted to bring up is that to please be reviewing tickets when the help desk is asking that they do need additional information. A lot of times there could, if you know, not all of these pieces of information have been included, specifically, you know, if maybe you haven't included a screenshot of something or a service plan ID or a case ID, you know, they will follow up and ask for those particular pieces of information. To give you some context, we currently have 65 tickets that we are waiting for the customer, meaning somebody who's submitted the ticket to respond. So if you are seeing that your ticket hasn't been addressed or you've been waiting quite a while, please do check the ticket and make sure that the help desk technician hasn't asked a follow-on question. Again, we have 65 tickets currently awaiting some sort of customer feedback. The last item that we did want to bring up is the help desk URL. It is hugely important to please use, and I know it's been sent out in a few different communications, but to please use that link to the help desk. That link essentially contains all the appropriate application links. So, and all the appropriate options when you're submitting a help desk ticket. If you navigate to the help desk in some other way, you could get options that don't really make sense for CAMS. So we do ask that you please use this link anytime you are submitting a help desk ticket. And if you do need that link again, please do let us know. We'll be sure to include it in the communication that we send out. So I believe that's it for today. We do appreciate everybody's time as we run through all the demonstrations. Again, please give us your feedback regarding that if there's specific things that you'd like to see there. And then also as we walk through updates, hopefully those things make sense. And we're going to go on mute for just a moment here. We'll see if we have an update regarding CAMS. Good deal. We didn't even have to go on mute. So I actually got 2 thumbs up that CAMS is back up and going. We are working with the Indiana Office of Technology to determine why we saw those couple of blips this morning. And we will follow up with all the folks on the line with additional information. So we will keep the Zoom open for a few minutes here for any follow-on comments or questions. And thanks everybody, and have a great Tuesday. Bye.